This video contains spoilers for all the current MCU Disney Plus shows, including Wandavision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki. Hello guys, it is Gate of Theories here, and last week we got the ending of Loki, which has officially set up the multiverse in the MCU, making way for the paths of the upcoming Marvel films to deal with the huge consequences of there being a multiverse. Spider-Man No Way Home, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and probably many other films. In fact, the finale of Loki was just so huge that it kind of highlighted to everyone how significant these Disney Plus shows are, and how without them, you're not going to be able to understand the films at all. Or at least that's exactly what Disney wants you to believe. So today we're going to be wondering whether these Disney Plus shows are as essential as Marvel and social media is making it out, or will the films still make sense if you skip them? But before we go any further, please make sure that you click that red subscribe button down below and have your notifications turned on so that you get notified every time we make any brand new Marvel videos. Now, as fans who watch every Marvel film, we sometimes kind of forget that we don't actually have to understand the whole plot. Sure, watching every film will help us understand the whole storyline and maybe one-off lines much better and in more detail, but there are some films that can just be easily skipped. And Marvel needs these so that casual viewers still want to watch and don't feel intimidated that they need to watch absolutely every film from every character before they watch something like The Avengers. A good example is Spider-Man Homecoming, which, if you think about it, can just be skipped very easily and the story will still make very much sense. You have Civil War, which introduced Spider-Man, and then if you move straight on into Infinity War, everything still makes sense as Spider-Man knows Tony Stark from Civil War, and then it's in Infinity War where Spider-Man becomes an Avenger. The only reason you actually need to see Homecoming is if you want to know more about the character and Tony and Peter's relationship, but everything still makes sense if you completely skip it. And I think the exact same thing can be said about these Disney Plus shows, because, let's be honest, not every Marvel fan is going to be able to afford Disney Plus to see these shows, so it would be stupid for Marvel to make them essential to see before seeing the films, as they'd lose loads of key viewers. So let's look at each show so far and see whether it can be skipped. I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier is the easiest one to get your head around first. In Endgame, Cap gave Sam the shield. It's in Falcon and the Winter Soldier that Sam gives up the shield, then eventually realizes he can become Captain America, and by the end of it picks up the shield and becomes Captain America. Then Captain America 4 is going to come out. Now, at first it might seem like the character development is too much to skip from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but at the end of the day, it really isn't. If we now look at the same storyline without the Disney Plus show, we have in Endgame Cap gives Sam the shield, then Captain America 4 comes around and Sam is now Captain America. Like, it doesn't take a genius to make the small jump of Sam was given the shield, oh, now he's the new Captain America. In fact, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is so self-contained that it basically starts and ends the same, with Sam having the shield at the beginning and Sam having the shield at the end. I know there's a bit more to discuss with the show, but let's move on to Loki now. I mean, this show's finale is huge, creating the literal multiverse in the MCU. Seems way too important to skip. Then again, it's nothing that the films couldn't just pick up on. Let's go back to Spider-Man Far From Home, where Marvel was teasing us that a multiverse might exist. Before the plot twist was revealed that it was just drones helping Mysterio, the MCU kind of got away with it by just casually saying there's a multiverse, with Nick Fury stating there was, and Spider-Man saying,
"I'm sorry, you're saying there's a multiverse?"
And then they just expected the viewers to accept there's a multiverse now, and we all just sort of did until the plot twist was revealed. I reckon Marvel is going to do the exact same thing now with the movies. It's just going to be a few lines in Spider-Man No Way Home or in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness from characters like Doctor Strange saying there's a multiverse now and we need to stop it, and then just carry on from there. Of course, watching Loki will give you a full reason as to why this is happening and give you a bit more context, but I'm sure Doctor Strange will give another reason as well, and then therefore, Loki isn't necessarily essential to watch before you go in to watch these films. Not to mention, in Endgame with the different timelines introduced, the idea of the multiverse doesn't seem that far away, so viewers could just look at that film and make that link. And finally, Wandavision is probably the hardest one to try and skip, since Doctor Strange 2 is all about Wanda being crazy, which only happens because of the events of Wandavision. But then again, she was already crazy beforehand, as the show tells us. The show says it was Vision's death that made her depressed and mad, and by the end of the show she's come to accept Vision's death, but from the end credits scene we know she's still becoming the true Scarlet Witch and being mad. In Doctor Strange 2, all they need to do is say Wanda is depressed after Vision's death and has now become the true Scarlet Witch. Watching WandaVision will of course help you to understand more, but it doesn't seem that essential. Now, what about all of the other side characters, you might be asking? People like John Walker, Zemo, Monica Rambeau, Sylvie, Kang the Conqueror. These all seem way too important to just be skipped. I'm gonna say yes, they're very important, but even then, I reckon they can be skipped if we're just focusing on the films. I'm gonna say if we're looking at the other Marvel TV shows that they may appear in, then you probably do need to see their original shows, but if you have Disney Plus anyway, you're most likely going to watch all the shows anyway, so I'm just meaning if you don't have Disney Plus, will the films make any less sense if you haven't seen these characters in their original TV shows? Firstly, John Walker becoming US agent and Zemo are clearly going to be appearing in some sort of Thunderbolt or Dark Avengers team led by Valentina, and then they may appear in Captain America 4. But if there is going to be this team, I doubt Marvel would make a film about it, but more likely another TV series, as they've seen how well these shows are doing. Of course, they probably will appear in more films, but then again, a line can easily describe that they are villains, and that's all you really need to know. Now, what about Monica Rambeau, who is set to appear in the film The Marvels, along with Miss Marvel, who's also getting her own Disney Plus show? The simple fact is that not every superhero must have an origin story. Going back to Spider-Man, in the MCU we never see Peter bitten by the radioactive spider, we're just told that he was, and that's all we really need. Of course, shows like WandaVision and Miss Marvel will give the viewers that bit of extra information that they might want, but when Captain Marvel 2 is released, we can just have Monica returning with Captain Marvel and saying she now has powers, and then the film can carry on as normal. So the only time you'd probably ever need to have seen WandaVision is if you're watching another Disney Plus show like Secret Invasion, for example. And finally, as for characters like Sylvie and Kang, well, they're probably going to be very essential if you're watching Loki Series 2, but as for the films, well, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is going to be reintroducing Kang anyway, and probably a darker variant of him, which will also introduce the idea of variants to the films. And Sylvie will probably show up in Doctor Strange 2, which can again be explained by the fact that there is now a multiverse. You don't need to have seen Loki to necessarily understand her. So I think the point I'm trying to make is that the Disney Plus shows may seem essential to watch if you want to stay up to date with the films, but at the end of the day, they really aren't. Sure, if you're a fan of Marvel and want to see absolutely everything, then you should definitely watch them, as they go into a lot more detail than the films, and they're just really good. But if you're just a casual viewer to the MCU, or you don't have enough money to pay for Disney Plus, then skipping these shows doesn't seem as detrimental as you might initially think. And I'm sure in the next Avengers Endgame level event, characters from these shows will appear in the films, but you can easily just make the jump that they're characters who we haven't seen before and they're here to help, like in Endgame. And I think the reasoning behind this is clear. Marvel wants to give their fans more, and Disney wants Disney Plus to sell, so the TV shows are a great idea. But Marvel also doesn't want the film franchise to seem too intimidating to casual viewers or viewers who just can't afford Disney Plus, so they also make sure that these shows aren't necessarily essential if you want to still watch the films. But anyway guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, make sure that you smash that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Do you think these Disney Plus shows are essential to understand the films? I think it works for Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but maybe not as much for WandaVision because of Wanda returning in Doctor Strange 2. Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments, and do you love these Disney Plus Marvel shows? I certainly do. And which ones are you excited for next? And as always, we've been here on Gate of Theories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.